pretty cool to see kind of erupt from discussion that Chris and I were having, and see all of your enthusiasm and meet all of you guys on this kind of communal contributing level, you know? So there aren't really any rules or regulations. It's the first time we've done this, you know. But we have the glasses over here, personal spittoons. Everything's numbered and labeled. Taste at your leisure. I mean, this is a forum, you know. Like let's get talking about all this stuff, and maybe start thinking about the next one as well.
I think there was a tendency to perhaps overwork some of the wines in a warmer year. You know, it was the first big one we had. Lots of positive oak, lots of wood tannin still showing. You know, it's still quite prevalent there, and the fruit sort of on a bit of a roller coaster. I've been following the O2s for a while. They show well, they don't show so well. I think there's still, you know, it's to be decided. But you know, with everything in Niagara, I think you know, things change from year to year, and O2 I think is still there's still some wines here that are showing really well and have a long way to go, and there's ones that are probably right there or past it. So, but a great vintage, you know, a really solid vintage, and I think a lot of winemakers have learned from that one. Subsequently in 05 and 07, and then in 2010 this year.
And some of you might know Yorgos Papageorgiou better than I did. I didn't really know him that well. He made these wines. He was, you know, a really intense guy. He made pretty intense wines, and you know, one of his signatures would be just the length of time that he would leave the grapes fermenting on, you know, the wine fermenting on the grapes, and he loved to extract lots of tannins and tons of flavor, heaps of color, and I think that it, you know, really shows through in his wine. But he's a great red winemaker, and we enjoy working with him as a 30 bench, and I think it's a great wine to sit up well.
So what I'll do is I'll take the bottle, we'll put it right here. If there's a decanter associated with that, I've got those over here, and we'll just line them all up down the bar here. Okay, so as far as I know, there is a Pinot in this mix.
Oh, I think that.
There's a Syrah, and there's a right bank Bordeaux. Number one, unveiling, Colio Estate Merlot, barrel aged CEV vineyard, 2002 vintage. Lake Erie North Shore represented. There you go.
That was an amazing, bizarre wine.
I found the nose to be at complete odds with the palate.
Yeah. I'm with you on there now for sure.
But I found it to be intriguing because of that.
2002, great vintage. I mean, we're looking at 8-year-old Ontario wines. People think, you know, the Ontario reds can't age, but I think this tasting proves that they can. Some of the wines are drying out a bit, but what we're looking at is good extraction with high tannins, and I think it was the tannin and the extraction that allowed these wines to age as well as they have. Some of them are really extraordinary. In fact, I thought that they were sort of, if I were to taste these wines blind, not knowing where they came from, I would have said that one or two of them were from Pauillac in Bordeaux. So this is really exciting. Ontario can produce red wines of this quality that will age in good vintages. So I think we have to look to those years when Ontario can produce wines of this quality. I think that 2010 will be one of these years following 2007.
I had my doubts about the vintage and how it was holding up, and so far it's kind of been confirmed in the sense that it's a mixed bag. There are some wines that I think have reached their lifespan and need to be drunk up. Some wines have shown amazing power, elegance, and need to be kept longer. So I think that's a testament to the winemaking in those particular bottles. It's been amazing to actually discover those wines. my original notes on some of the wines were to keep them, but I think it's clear that at that stage, 2002 in Niagara, we had a lot of new wineries, a lot of new winemakers, and we're seeing the skill in winemaking come through in what maybe was a difficult vintage. It wasn't an easy vintage in the sense that people say 02, 05, 07 were great vintages for the early decade of this millennium, but if you look at 02, I think it was more difficult than say 05 or 07. I think as we can see some of these wines starting to fade and fall apart, and you know, having disparate elements, so they're not knit together or not in harmony.
I think the wines are showing two different styles. You're showing the vintage and you're showing the winemaker's influence, and they're pretty separated. I'll be curious to see where everything lands. There's some exceptional wines. There's some that just long since died, but fascinating nonetheless. I think 02 as a whole could have aged quite nicely. I think in 07, another hot year, you'll have better winemaking technique, a little bit more experience, a little bit older vines, and we're going to see some very ageable wines from that vintage, which I find to be quite reflective of the 02s. But all in all, pretty good time so far.
Wow, fascinating tasting to get all the 2002s in one room like this, the Cabernet. Totally amazing tasting. Shows off the vintage, which was very hot. Some aggressive tannins in there. I think you'll find that the winemakers who extracted the fruit enough to match those aggressive tannins are the ones that are doing the best. But there are some real nice wines here. I wish I had a lot more 02 in my cellar.
I think we owe Will a great vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Will.